The peak of everything we've been talking about in the last 10 episodes is now culminating into episode 11. We see Junior and Livia now. He's like, well, if Tony's meeting with these guys behind their back, they must be talking about me. He's paranoid. As a leader, it is never good to be paranoid. It is never good to be worried. It's never good to be worried about what people are saying behind your back. Most of the great leaders I know, they know people talk bad about them, and they don't really worry about it unless it's immediately impacting their business or impacting what they're doing. And even then, they know most of the times the haters or the people that talk bad about you behind your back, there's nothing you can do about it. So you focus on your goals and you focus on what's important. That's why Tony says in one of the episodes, who cares about the things people say if they don't say it to your face? He said that to Christopher at one point. So Tony really understands that as a leader where Junior doesn't. We see Junior's going to make an irrational decision based on that as well. This is the whole combination of, remember when AJ told Livia that Tony went to therapy, Tony sold Livia's house. Now Livia Junior have this relationship, and now we see the impact of what's going to go wrong. We see the impact of what's going to happen. And this changes the trajectory of the entire series. All right, welcome to another exciting episode of Sopranopreneur. Get my hardcore shirt in there. Excited to have you here today. Finish up my Omerta cigar here right now. Really excited to dig into this episode as we're getting to kind of the peak of everything we've been talking about in the last 10 episodes is now culminating into episode 11. And I'm really excited about that, excited to see and for you to hear kind of what happens and what's going on. So episode 11, nobody knows anything, and we all know what this is about. This is also the, kind of where the character of Pussy really comes out and his storyline gets set. And this actually, when the show came out, really set kind of the trend of what it is. This is what left everybody hanging in kind of, Pussy's storyline and what happens. And we're going to see it unfold in the next couple episodes. But we've gone from a strip club to a brothel. So now we're seeing more locations where the guys like to hang out. They're having a good time. Seems like it's a night out. We come in and Paulie's sitting there getting a massage. And then all of a sudden we hear screaming come from another room. Turns out it's Pussy. He blew out his back. Don't want to know how he did that, but he hurt his back. The girl thought he was dying and having a heart attack. And we sort of see Pussy's back pain, which is going to be the theme for this episode and the theme for what's going on. We also see here at the brothel, not just Paulie and Pussy, but Tony's there as well as Detective MIKEISMS. It's kind of all these different people that are living this duality of life. Remember the episode where we talked about that? They're all sitting here. We cut to the next scene, though, which is interesting because Jimmy, Pussy, and a couple of the other guys are in a pool hall. They're playing cards, and all of a sudden the FBI busts in to do a raid. And as the raid's going on, there's a couple of things that are interesting here, obviously, and we're going to find out about Jimmy in a little bit. Jimmy is kind of giving a little bit of pushback. Pussy's kind of eyeing things and looking around. And then, obviously, he starts running. So Pussy runs. He tries to escape. They find a bunch of guns in here in one of the pool tables. And Jimmy's obviously kind of trying to play it like a tough guy. And then Pussy gets arrested as he's running. Cut to the next scene. The guys, Tony, Junior, Paulie, Silvio are all at the strip club, and they're talking about the raid that happened, and they're laughing about it. So here's the situation where something's gone wrong. They're in trouble. Most normal people would be scared and freaking out, but these guys are like, yeah, this happened. They think it's funny. They're laughing about it. They're having a good time. And then all of a sudden, Pussy walks in, and they're all kind of laughing at him and telling him to run. The guys are laughing about it, though, but the one person that's not laughing is Junior. And remember, we've been talking about Junior's leadership style throughout this, where Junior isn't really, he's very uncomfortable in his leadership, but he's also very old school, right? So it's a balance of those two things. But as Pussy comes in, he kind of gives him a hard time about running, tells him he shouldn't run. Pussy says how much money he got taken away from him. He says you shouldn't be carrying that much cash. So we really see here kind of Junior, once again, Junior and Tony's style. Tony's like, something went wrong, it'll be fine, it'll fix himself. He's got to learn from his mistake. It's a good leadership style that Tony has here. Whereas Junior's kind of scolding him and kind of giving him a hard time, which we know doesn't really work out. Cut to the next scene, and this is where, like I said, everything's sort of coming to a climax. So remember, Pussy has the back pain. We saw him at the FBI raid, and now Detective MIKEISMS is telling Tony that Pussy is an informant for the FBI. And Tony's freaking out because this is bad on multiple levels. The first level that it's bad on is that he has a rat in the family. He has someone in his organization or in his business that he can't trust. The second way that this is bad is that this is one of Tony's best friends. It's almost like a brother to him. He loves him. And Pussy's kind of one of his consigliaries, his mentors. So imagine here's someone you look to, someone you go to advice for, someone you're close to, and it turns out they're the worst thing you could be in a mafia Italian family, which is a rat or an FBI informant. So Tony's upset. He's frustrated. And he really wants to verify it. He has to see the 302 report, so he has to make sure that he gets him all the information he needs. And one of the things we see, though, here with Pussy is, and MIKEISMS kind of tells Tony, like, Tony's like, how could he do this? Why would he do this? And Detective MIKEISMS says, because his family's most important to him. And this is something that Tony, in his mind, he doesn't say it, but you see he's thinking it. Well, what about me? What am I? I thought I was his family, but his actual family, his wife, his kids, this is who he's stressed about. And he's putting his family, his blood family, before his mafia family. And we know too, even in work today, I know there's the work husband, work wife culture. Some people will call their people that they work with their work family. And I think when something goes wrong or someone betrays us, whether it's a family member, whether it's a friend, whether it's a coworker, it hurts, right? Like there's this pain when these things happen, especially in a leadership position, right? When we're leaders and the people that we lead or the people that we invest in kind of betray us or go against us, it hurts, right? Because you invested in them. You invested a lot in them. And that's why there's that disappointment. That's why as a leader, it's very important to choose who's in your inner circle and who you work with, who are the people you trust that are your confidants, who are the people you trust that are your employees, who do you trust that's your consigliere. They should be people that you have this deep level of trust for, because if not, when things go wrong, sometimes their true colors are going to come out. And if they're not of good character, things like this could happen where they're going to do the wrong thing or maybe take the quote unquote easy way out, which is debating which way is the easy way out for pussy, but we'll kind of get to that. All right, we cut to Tony and Carmela having another party at their house. This is something they do annually. Tony says they do it annually. Carmela's on the phone with Tony's mom, Livia. She says she's not coming. Tony says, are you surprised? She does this. He calls it negative attention getting. His mom is an inherently negative person. And we talked about her kind of being a hater, right? She doesn't respect anything that Tony does. She really doesn't show him any love and affection, but he's still always trying to gain her affection. But he knows, too, she's this negative, toxic person. That's really the whole reason why he's in therapy. Tony, too, with everything going on with Paulie, with Pussy, he doesn't have confirmation yet, but he tells Pussy, hey, can you help me move this piano to kind of test his back, see how bad the pain really is, see what's going on. And Pussy says he can't do this. So he gets the other guys, he gets Silvio, and he gets Paulie to help him move this piano at this party because Carmela wants to get out of the house because no one, quote unquote, plays it anymore. If you have kids, you know how that goes. And one of the things Paulie says, yeah, he's been weird lately. He goes, and I have it on good authority that his back is not really hurt. And Tony's like, what do you mean? And he goes, well, I sent him to my back guy who works on the Jets front line. He's the Jonas Salt of backs. And he said that he did a full work on him and nothing, that he didn't do anything. So is his back, is he faking it? Is he pretending? What is he doing? So, of course, where does Tony go? Tony goes to Dr. Melfi to talk about this and talks to Dr. Melfi about what's going on. And she basically confirms that, hey, the pain in his back, yes, it could be psychosis. It could be in his head. Really goes to show how powerful the brain is, too. This has actually happened to people for real. And it could also be because he's keeping a secret, which obviously would be that he's a rat. But interesting how Tony, you see how, too, he went to his two guys that he trusts the most, Paulie and Silvio, and he goes to Dr. Melfi. So this is his inner tribe, his inner circle. And remember how important I talked about that being. You got to have people to lean on. You got to have people that can help you out. You got to have people that can do these things. And that's really important to Tony, to have an inner circle of people that he could trust and run this stuff by, because things are going to go wrong in your business. It's inevitable. Obviously, what's going on with Sal is much bigger than just being little. It's something that could take down his whole business, his own empire. So he's really got to be cautious about it. But it's really important in business, I think, to have that inner circle of people you could trust and people that you could turn to. So moving on, they have that conversation. And then Tony is speaking with MIKEISMS again. He, once again, doesn't want to believe this. He asks to see the 302. MIKEISMS says that's going to be really hard to get. He tells him how much he loves him as his friend. He can't be a rat. Tony's in denial. And remember the previous episode where we had anger, denial, and acceptance. Tony's almost going through it as if it's the death of Pussy, because we know if he is a rat, he's going to have to be taken out. He's going to have to be killed. He's going to have to be whacked, and something's going to have to be done about it, but he just can't believe it. Next, we see Carmela go to visit Livia to take her out to eat. She still can't kind of see the good in Tony and Carmela and what they're trying to do for her. They're really just trying to love her, and she's just upset. She talks about everything is wrong and that Tony really doesn't care for her. And Carmela says, you know how much he loves you. You play this game, but you know how much he loves you, and you know how much he cares about you and how much he wants to be there for you. So I think it's interesting in that she can't see the good. And, sometimes in life and business, you're going to have people like that. They just can't see the good, or maybe they can't be successful. And sometimes you just have to move on from those people. I think a lot of times, and I talked about this, when we hire employees, or we have people that maybe are even our mentors, or people we've been working with for a long time. If people aren't a fit anymore, it's going to be time to make a change. And you have to be aware of that in your business when that needs to happen. I know that's hard to do sometimes, but those are the tough things we have to do as business owners. Those are the tough things we have to do as leaders, is sometimes if people in our life aren't going to change or not going to be a positive force, we need to remove them from the situation. Doesn't mean we can't love them. Doesn't mean we can't be there for them. But if we're bringing them into our business or our life in a way to make us feel worthy or allow us to be successful or do an important task, if they're not fitting that, sometimes you just have to cut bait and say, hey, man, it looks like it's time to move on. So continuing on, too, we cut to Tony. He goes to Pussy's house, right? So Tony's doing everything. He's talking to his friends. He's having them feel him out. Now he goes to Pussy's house to see how he's feeling and really see if he can get a read on him. And this is something that Tony will talk about later. His dad used to be great at this. His dad used to be really good at telling if people were lying or telling the truth, they were a rat or not. They used to be really good at that. And Tony just says, like, look, I'm not as good as my dad was at that. I'm really not good at getting this information. And he can't figure out what's going on. So he calls Paulie to the Bing. The Bing's actually closed. He calls Paulie in and he tells him, look, here's the situation. I think he might be a rat. I have no good authority to hear that, but I need you to find a way to figure this out. I need you to figure out if he's going to be a rat or not. And he puts that sort of task on Paulie, which that's going to come to a big arc here in a few minutes. All right. Next, we cut to Tony goes to the nursing home to tell his mom he was able to sell the house, which is interesting because, spoiler a little bit, he really doesn't sell the house. It's up for sale, but it never actually gets sold. They continue to keep it in the family for a long time. A lot of great scenes, too, happen in that house, which actually, funny story, I got a cousin of mine from New Jersey, and her husband was actually saying they wanted to use his house, his childhood house. They wanted to use that for Livia's house, but they hadn't heard of the show or anything yet. They thought it was a scam, so they said no. But I'm like, man, how cool would that have been? I've got some cool family stories of my family in New Jersey and my wife's family in New Jersey connected to the Sopranos, which I'll share with you throughout the episode. But a little fun fact there that my cousin-in-law could have been Livia's house, but it was not. But anyway, Tony goes to the nursing home to let him know that the house has been sold. And the director there says, listen, your mom is not in her room. She's in aqua therapy. And he's like, my mom doing therapy to take care of herself. And she says, the doctor told her that her back would get hunched like an old lady, and she didn't want that to happen. And Tony's in shock. Tony's really in shock to find this out. Also, a little hint that gets let out here that gives Tony a little bit of concern, and we're going to find out why here in a little bit as well. She says she looks forward to Junior's visits. And she looks so forward to Junior visits that they're the highlight of her day, but there's something else going on there, which is very interesting. So now we see Paulie. Paulie's on the case. Paulie was assigned to figure out if Sal Big Pussy Bombacero is the rat. And he offers for him, he says, hey, follow me. And he pulls up next to his car. And he takes him to basically a bathhouse where they're going to get have a nice hot steam and get a massage afterwards. And Pussy's resistant. He says, no, I don't want to do it. I can't. My doctor said if I go in there with my back and everything and my heart and my blood pressure, I could check out. I could have a heart attack. And Paulie's like, come on, heat's good for you. Do it. Take your shirt off. Take your shirt off. What do you want me to turn around? He wants to take his shirt off to see if he's wearing a wire. And Pussy keeps fighting him on getting undressed and doing this, which leads him to think that he's a rat. And him and Paulie basically have some heated words there. But this is Paulie's way of investigating to see if he's a rat or not. And all signs are pointing to that he is a rat. He doesn't want to take his shirt off. He doesn't want to do this. So Paulie is definitely concerned that this is going to happen. The other thing with this is, too, and I think in business, you see people, too, especially in a work-from-home environment, I think in a lot of things nowadays, you can only hide things for so long. You only fake not doing your job right for so long. You can see my Back to the Future cup there, right? You can only be Biff for so long and have other people doing your work until eventually you're going to get caught. If you're doing something wrong, you're not doing your job, you're not doing what you're supposed to within your organization, you will get caught eventually. It does come out. It's just natural. And same thing with your customers. If you're not doing the right things by your customers, if you're a business owner, and you're taking shortcuts, eventually that truth comes out, and that's something that could really hurt you and what's going on. So after this, too, we see Tony continuing to dig. He's meeting with Silvio, and Silvio finds out that MIKEISMS owes Pussy a lot of money. And they're saying, once again, Tony's looking for all the reasons that Pussy can't be a rat. And he's like, well, it doesn't mean he can't not be the rat, but sometimes the truth hurts, and Tony's really accepting that. We need to keep looking into this. So to Tony's credit, as much as he wants to find the right answer as a good leader, he's allowing all the evidence to come in so he can make the right decision. Tony is not just making a harsh decision either way, either in that Pussy is a rat and has him whacked, or that he's not a rat. He's also not letting that get off easier because that's the truth he wants. And that's what makes a great leader, right? What makes a great leader is us allowing ourselves to see the truth. And searching for the truth, even though it may not be the best thing for our business, or it may hurt, or may not want to be where we're at. And we see this all the time. If you're able to uncover the truth as a leader and find out what it actually is and correct it, you're going to be better off than kind of putting your head in your sand, if you will, and not following the truth and not following the right information. Next, we get to Mackenzie. He's in the shower, which we think we're going to find out something about Pussy, but what we actually find out is Mackenzie gets arrested. So he gets arrested at the brothel. There's also a couple of other Tony's guys there. And obviously this makes the news, and Tony sees it and he's like, man, this is my guy. And a lot of worries coming. Could another rat be in the works? Because McKenzie was his guy to get him the information. If they arrest him, maybe he flips on Tony and gives them information. And what McKenzie does is he's so upset that he got arrested. We cut to the next scene, and he basically goes to a bridge and commits suicide. He can't handle the stresses of what he was doing wrong. Remember what I said before, everything that you do wrong can come to light. Now, suicide wasn't necessarily the answer, right? And suicide is never the answer because you can't come back from that. And even Tony says that at one point, man, he may have lost his job, but he could have done other things. Like, I think Tony even thought he would have taken care of him. But sometimes we have to face our consequences, and really the suicide is not facing your consequences. He was kind of taking the easy way out. And he really doesn't understand why he would take that such an extreme action. Tony just doesn't get that. So what does Tony do? He actually goes back to the brothel and he talks to the madam there, and him and the madam are outside talking about it. And he also tells the madam that he thinks Pussy might be a rat. And she says, I don't think he could be. He's now seeking her advice, almost like she's a therapist, which is interesting. And she talks about that, being a madam and being a brothel, you'd be amazed at how open and honest people are without their clothes on. She says that, a lot of people opened up to him. And one of the things that she says about MIKEISMS, though, is he never said anything bad about Pussy. He didn't like Paulie, but never said anything about Pussy. And he said that with Tony, he said he wasn't worried about it, that he owed some people some money, but he was worried because Tony had his back. And he always knew that. He knew Tony had his back. And he respected him for that. And she said, don't get me wrong, he never had a nice word to say about anybody, but he did know that you had his back, and he respected that a lot. And that's Tony's reputation, I think. Tony doesn't always do things that are favorable or right, or maybe on the side of good, if you will. But everybody, and what makes him a great leader is that they trusted him, and they know he'll always do the thing that's in the best interest of his people. And everybody that was associated with him, even though he was tough on him, we saw him be really tough on McKenzie. We see him be tough on Paulie and Silvio and Pussy and everybody in this episode. But at the end of the day, he's a great leader because people knew he had the major goal in mind, or he had the major organization or the bigger picture in mind. So that's why people follow Tony, and more importantly, that's why people trust Tony more than they trust Junior, which I think is very interesting as well. Moving on, we see Tony and Livia. We see Junior and Livia now talking about Tony and that he's meeting with people behind his back. And Junior is upset about this to no end. Junior finds this out, and he knows this is a bad thing. He basically sits there and tells Livia, I'm going to have him whacked. It's basically what he says. And more importantly, she then tells him that he goes and sees a psychiatrist. And remember Junior's fearful of his leadership position. So he reacts in the most extreme way. He's fearful because he's not confident in what he's doing. He's like, well, if Tony's meeting with these guys behind their back, he even says that they must be talking about me. He's paranoid. As a leader, it is never good to be paranoid. It is never good to be worried. It's never good to be worried about what people are saying behind your back. Most of the great leaders I know, they know people talk bad about them, and they don't really worry about it unless it's immediately impacting their business or impacting what they're doing. And even then, they know most of the times the haters or the people that talk bad about you behind your back, there's nothing you could do about them. So you focus on your goals and you focus on what's important. That's why Tony, as much as he's worried about his reputation, he doesn't worry about the negative things people say about you. He even says in one of the episodes, who cares about the things people say if they don't say it to your face? He said that to Christopher at one point. So Tony really understands that as a leader, where Junior doesn't. We see Junior's going to make an irrational decision based on that as well. So it's just really not a good thing. But this is the whole combination of, remember when AJ told Livia that Tony went to therapy? Tony sold Livia's house. Now Livia Junior have this relationship, and now we see the impact of what's going to go wrong. We see the impact of what's going to happen, and this changes the trajectory of the entire series right here. I'm so excited for the next couple of episodes and what's going to come out of that. Next, we got to Jimmy coming to Tony's house. Jimmy got out of jail. Tony's having dinner. He takes him down to the basement, which is where he likes to talk to people. And Jimmy's asking Tony questions, and Tony knows that he's asking questions he shouldn't be asking. And he knows that Jimmy's probably wearing a wire, that he's probably a rat now. And he figures out that Jimmy's the rat. It's actually not Pussy. It's Jimmy. And he can't verify that because McKenzie dead. But it's basically Jimmy and Big Pussy basically look the same. They're two short, fat Italian guys. And they got it mixed up. Whoever the informant was that gave him that information. And now Tony realizes that Pussy's not the rat. And he's nervous, right? He's nervous. He's like, oh, man, what happened here? I told Paulie to do this. I told Silvio to do this. Did somebody kill Pussy? That's his biggest concern. So he calls Silvio and he calls Paulie to the Bing. Him and Paulie basically kind of have a blowout. And he basically says, did you do it? Did you do it? He says, no, I didn't do it. Leave me alone. I didn't do anything. And Tony's just very upset. He says, I can't find Pussy anywhere, which is a funny line. But at the end of the day, nobody knows where he is, because what they did was, and I think, Pussy realized what was going on as well. He realized that his friends have turned on him. He realized that they thought he was the rat when actually it was Jimmy. And Tony as his friend now, because Pussy is his best friend, almost like a brother and a mentor to him. He's worried that something happened to him, and he's nervous that he got killed, and he can't find him anywhere. Next, we got the Mikey Palmisi, who is Junior's second in charge, or his right hand. And we know Mikey's not a good guy. He's not a smart guy. And he's sitting in his kitchen basically telling his wife, which is not a good idea, that Tony's going to get taken out. That Junior plans to kill Tony and plans to have him whacked. And it's not good that he's sharing this information for two reasons. Number one, you should never do that. And he's putting his wife at jeopardy, because God forbid things don't go Junior's way or Mikey's way, and they try to have Tony whacked. And they find out that his wife knows she could be in jeopardy as well. So not smart for Mikey, if he loves his wife, to put her in that position. I mean, what Italian would do that? Not very smart. But at the end of the day, he does that, and we see sort of the culmination of what's happening here. And this ends with kind of Tony, standing by the river, not the river where MIKEISMS killed himself, but just standing by a river, kind of contemplating everything that's going on with Pussy, the Jimmy being the rat, sort of all this instability. So why Tony's a leader and he's calm and he's stable and he's not like Junior, this is weighing on him, and you can almost see there's no dialogue in that scene where it closes at the end. But you can see the weight of what Tony's dealing with, and the weight of what he's going through, and the weight of everything sort of going on. So really great episode here. I think really important entrepreneurial lessons here to learn on who are the people in your organization, and who are the people that you surround yourself with and that you trust. And it's important to constantly be evaluating those people. It doesn't matter how long they've been with you, or how long they've been working with you, or how long they've been in your organization. It's important to continually question things, evaluate people's character, look at them, test them, but in a good way, but also be a positive, strong leader. Because you see, too, even though Tony's going through this turmoil, he handles it with stability, where, Silvio offers to step up and handle it. Paulie offers to step up and handle it. All of his guys are like, hey, we're still here for you, though, even though this is a difficult situation, something goes wrong. So if you're stable and you're calm and you're smart when you're a leader, when things go wrong, people will be there for you to help you out. So appreciate you guys. Once again, show notes are down there in the link below, so make sure you go ahead and grab that if you want. We have the links to Omerta cigars. Make sure you pick one of those up. I'm actually headed to Vegas this week for a big cigar convention, so excited about that. Shout out to Hardcore Italians, Mafia Chronicles. For more episodes, make sure you check out Sopranopreneur.com. Make sure you're following us on Instagram at Sopranopreneur. For more about me, MikeFicara.com, and I will see you on the next episode.